Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are streaming via Facebook Live and YouTube. If you have any questions for our guests at the end, please put them in the comments. You can put them in during it, and we'll read them at the end. Before I get started with our exciting guests, I just want to announce I'm really excited. We're getting ready to launch the book that I've been talking about for months. It's How to Find Your Career You Love. It's called Don't Be a Zombie. That's been kind of our theme. The book is in, if you can see it, it's in proof form right now. But next week on Amazon, it will go live. And this 240-page book will help you find a job that you truly love and enjoy. And I believe it's going to be an inspiration for all. So without further ado, Bryan, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Sure. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for asking me, and hi to everybody that's watching and listening. This is a really fun thing that you're doing. I think it's going to help a lot of people, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, we appreciate you helping. So we'll jump right into the questions. So Bryan, what is your title and your occupation, and what exactly do you do in your career?
I am a director of animal management at a small aquarium in on the Florida Panhandle, and my department is responsible for the care and the welfare of dolphins, seals, sea lions, penguins, Asian small-clawed otters, and a handful of tropical birds. So every day I manage the staff and work with them in order to take care of the animals. Uh, I'm interfacing with the veterinary department, the maintenance department, our education team, guest services. We are doing dolphin, sea lion educational demonstrations, as well as animal chats to educate our guests that are here. And the day changes. It could be anywhere from scuba diving to clean something to taking care of a baby penguin, and then back. So we're like all over the place. But it's really exciting. It's a fast-paced job.
What a unique job. I mean, not many people can say they work with sea lions and penguins and do shows. How did you get into this?
So my passion, I've always loved swimming, and I have always loved animals. When I was younger, my aunt and my uncle brought me to the New England Aquarium in Boston, and I had never really seen anything like that. So it was amazing to walk through. But then we sat down. If you had ever been there back in the day, they had this big barge where you'd go. There was an auditorium inside, and it was floating. It was just really magical. And I saw them do a show with dolphins and sea lions together, and I had never seen anything like that. I was like, what is this? That's a thing that we can do. I can get up there in front of all these people, and I can have this relationship with an animal, but then tell everybody how wonderful they are. That's it. That's what I want. And from that moment, I didn't give up. I didn't quit. And my parents were amazing. They supported everything. So we were watching all the animal documentaries on TV they could find. They were getting me books all about it. We would go to other aquariums, and I needed a degree. In our field, you need a degree in some biological science. I have a degree in marine biology. You can do just straight biology, zoology. I have a minor in chemistry, which helps me understand more of the veterinary side of things and also water quality because I work in an aquarium. In a zoo, you may not need that as much. And psychology because animal behavior. So I have a minor in psychology. But I have worked in the industry with people who have degrees in education. They wanted to start out being a teacher. They started volunteering, got into the animal side of things. There's a job opening and it fit. So I went to Salem University in Massachusetts. Interesting enough, we're talking here on Halloween, right? And I got a degree in marine biology. But while I did that, it's very important to get your foot in the door, especially in our industry. It's extremely competitive. There's only so many jobs that go around. And I would spend my weekends volunteering at the New England Aquarium where it all started. So I got to be on the boat where I saw all of these things, and before I even finished college, there was a job opening, a part-time one, so they hired me. So on the weekends before I even graduated, I was there as the guy doing the big show that I had seen when I was like 7. So and then from there, I've worked at a few different places to just get some different experiences. I worked out in San Diego and trained sea lions, mostly sea lions and dolphins for the Navy. And then I went to Georgia Aquarium and I worked with the beluga whales and the sea otters and helped them restart up the sea lion show that's going on now, until there was a position in management down here at Gulf Air and Marine Adventure Park where I am today.
Absolutely amazing. I wish I could have you on the show for about 5 hours because you hit on so many different points. So let's go back to when you saw the show. Now, how old were you when you were telling that story with your parents?
I think I was around like 7 or 8.
So you saw that at that age and that moment in your childhood, that is something that you continued to pursue, correct?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I didn't give up.
And that's amazing because I think a lot of times we see things in our childhood that you might have gotten derailed and you might have went towards education. And that's what many people do. But behind the scenes, when you were young, there was actually a career. You stayed passionate with it. You even got the degree in it. And you did this. This is just absolutely amazing. Now, how many years have you done this particular job?
Oh, I'm going to be about 24 years in.
And is there career development in your industry? So many people would think you're at the pinnacle. Bryan wouldn't have to do any career development because he's already, in his dream job. He's working with penguins and animals that he's always wanted to do. He's wanted to do shows. Is there a level of career development for you, furthering education, anything like that?
Yeah, there's always opportunities to learn more. We have a lot of species and we are continuing to develop, working with them better care as we work with the veterinary team, just like people, as people get older, you may have diseases that come up. Same thing with animals. And we're working with the vets to come out with, new exciting veterinary medicine. And a lot of that has to do with some of the training we're doing. So we're progressing and learning for the veterinary track. Like I never thought that I would be taking voluntary bloods where the animals are trained to lay there and they accept a needle. We take a voluntary blood or an ultrasound and I can process that stuff. So I can do some of that vet tech work that I never thought that I could do before. So that really helps me understand where the veterinary team is coming from. We're designing exhibits, being involved in that aspect of things, knowing more about the life support system. I was thinking I'd just work with animals, but really it's this whole system of how you actually have an aquarium or a zoo run. And then there's always room to grow, especially in the management level. This is where you start to pull away a little bit from being involved with all of the animals because you're also there to support the team. You're there to work with people and learn to work with people in a different manner. In a lot of ways, it's like animal training and positive reinforcement. But you can always grow to be a better communicator, better developer of an entire team because those people are taking care of the animals. So you're pouring in to so many different hats where I'm at. So I'm always feeling like I'm being challenged in a great way to grow and think outside of my box.
Now, what is something that people, let's say you're out there and you're thinking about doing this career or any of those degrees that you mentioned, what are some of the things in your job that you may not like or people need to know that's kind of a headache or challenging?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, right? Like we all see like the dolphin show and you're like, this is magic and it's wonderful, but there's a lot of long days. You're outside in some facilities, you're working sometimes in weather that's not bothering the animals, but you might be out in the rain, you might be out in the snow. So having to deal with that, it's very physical, which is great in a lot of ways. You're moving around and that's great for your own well-being. I would say that the schedule can be probably one of the hardest, trying to get time off. The animals have to eat every day. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday. So we all have to take turns. So there were many holidays that I didn't get a chance to be with my family, or working on the weekends, or you've got a baby sea lion on the way and you have to be there overnight for a watch. so you can alert everybody, when the baby arrives. They're all amazing things, but they also take a little bit of a different spin on your time, which is different from that 9 to 5 office job. So I think that's something people really have to understand, that it is a passion, and you're doing it because of the love of the animals. It's not that normal, put the papers away, close your laptop, go home. I come home and I still think about the animals. I think about, what can I do next? What do we have to do in the next few weeks, the next couple of years, as you take care of them almost, it's like your family. So I think that's a big thing. And I would say that it's getting better and better. The pay in our field is not the highest, and that's something that I think people were honest with me about when I started, and I knew it. And I said, okay, well, this is what I'm going for, and I'm going to keep working so I can get higher up. So there's a lot of people who want to jump into this industry and maybe don't realize those two things, that can be a bit of a struggle, a bit of a headache, as you mentioned. But you can work around it. If you really want it, you can figure it out.
Yeah, thanks for being candid about that, because that's always a discussion. It like I tell people, you can't quit your career and start cutting down trees and being a professional stump maker overnight. There has to be some type of a capital where you can put food on your table. And, like you said, it's getting better and you can work towards better in that. So that's good. And also I wondered, when I talk to people in the animal industry, one of them they mentioned too is getting attached to the animals and then something happening. Is that something you have to deal with as well? When it's probably a pretty big challenge for you too.
Yeah, I mean, animals, just like people, they don't live forever, and we do whatever we can. But they can come down with their versions of a cold or an illness. There are animals will develop cancer as they get older, and that's part of the amazingness that I get to be like involved in, is, like I said, the advancement of veterinary medicine and helping, because the more we learn, the better we can treat or take care of animals to try to prevent some of that stuff and extend their life. But there is a point where it's everybody's time, and that is very, very difficult when you've poured your heart and soul into taking care of an animal, growing up with them. A lot of people are in a facility. If they stay at the same facility, they've been there for, I mean, if you start right away when you can in your 20s and then you leave at 65 or so, you've been there for 40 years. You're there longer than a lot of the animals will have been around. So that is something that you do have to manage, but you just remember and you appreciate all the wonderful things that happened, and know that you did your best to give them the most wonderful life that you could, especially if they're rehabbed animals that couldn't be released and they need a home. If you're working with special needs animals, I mean, I've worked with some sea lions that fishermen have shot them and they've survived, but they couldn't survive on their own. So just knowing that you're helping make an animal's life better as long as you can, really, it helps you in those hard days. But yeah, it's like having a dog at home. It's a little bit different, but that day comes, and that's a hard thing to handle. But you've got to remember that there's all these other animals there that still need you. So it's okay to be, sad and go through that when it happens, but then you take that energy and you pour it into the animals that are there because they need you.
So awesome. And, you kind of hit on this earlier, but I do want to ask it again, just so people kind of get a idea. I know it's so hard. Everybody struggles with this question because, days change, but can you walk me through a typical day? So when you get out of bed in the morning to when you go home at night, what does that look like in your career?
Well, when I stop hitting the snooze button, I
Oh,
right. It's getting up, making sure that obviously I have a dog and stuff, so it's all the things at home, and sometimes going to the gym ahead of time because that can really just wake me up. And it's also, that's another thing, being in good physical condition, because you're running around, you've got to stay in good physical condition. It's just good for you mentally, emotionally. And then I get to work usually about 8 o'clock. I'm being at the level that I'm at right now. There's some things that I'm more involved in, some meetings in the morning and management stuff. But a typical day for somebody in our field would be getting to work. Somebody's there a little early, 5, 6 in the morning, to start getting all the food ready. And then a bulk of the staff come in. For us, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, where we jump in, we grab any supplements, vitamins, any medications that the vets have prescribed. We grab all the animals' first rounds of feeds, and then we go off and we check on them, make sure they look okay, look them over, make sure they're eating, do some exercise, have some fun, give them some enrichment toys, if you will. Um, giving them different things to do through the day. Then we go into cleaning. So animals are great, but they can be very, very messy. Penguins are cute, but whew. So we might be scrubbing for a couple of hours. There's probably somebody doing some scuba diving because we have to clean all of the pools, making sure that the buckets that we used are cleaned, getting refilled for the next feed, and then we go into the next round of feeds. Most of our animals get up to 4 feeds, sometimes 5 or 6 a day. And like I said, it's dolphins, seals, sea lions, penguins, otters, and tropical birds. So that's an awful lot of feedings that we're spreading out. And then we've got a schedule. Our department has so many animals that we've split. And depending on the day, you're either on the dolphin and otter tropical bird side. So those are the animals you take care of, and it's consistency throughout the day. So you might be doing shows, encounters where people can sign up and meet animals up close. That's really where I see people get inspired and really soaking up the education, is when they're right there and they can learn. If you're on the other side, it's seals, sea lions, and penguins, and you're also doing shows, encounters, uh, and we just go through the whole day, cleaning, doing chats, talking to guests, and then feeding again, and then more cleaning, more talking to guests, and cleaning again, until the end of the day. We wrap stuff up, we pull fish out of the freezer, get it ready to go, because it's all restaurant quality food that we feed the animals. And then the next day, the person comes in the morning and starts it all over again. So it's an awful lot of cleaning, peppered in with some meetings, staff development along the way as you go. But that's the gist of what our day is.
I'm so glad you explained that in detail because, I think a lot of people, they sit back and see, you doing a show and they're like, man, that guy's got the coolest job. He just does that the whole day. He does shows, plays with the animals, but like you said, cleaning, feeding, cleaning, feeding, cleaning. And so they need to know this is not just you're feeding fish to animals and educating all day. You're taking care of them, which is a huge responsibility. So glad you shared that. Now, you do something else that I always encourage people to do is diversify their career portfolio. And if you're passionate about something, doesn't mean you can't be passionate about other things. And, some people I know have 2 or 3 jobs and they love what they do. I'm case in point. But for we share that kind of common interest. In your background, you've got some oils there. How does that kind of relate with your passion there?
This fits in. I started using essential oils really for emotional support. Just so your audience understands, about 2.5 years ago, my partner Clayton passed away. He was diagnosed actually just shortly after my dad passed away. Clayton was diagnosed with acute liver failure, and I took care of him for 8 months until he passed away. And I was very lost. Um, and so my sister was using oils, and she said, "Hey, let me just send you some stuff." And really, it gave me something to focus on during the rough days. I could just kind of pay attention to that, and they make sense for me from a biological standpoint, constituents and chemical properties. Like, I really started to read into it, the distillation of them all. So my science brain started to kind of jump in, and I was getting excited. Then I had another thing kind of flip. When you become widowed, you don't realize that your income drops and all your bills double, and you're the one that has to handle that. I was getting calls from the hospital, And nobody teaches this, and I think this is very important. It should honestly be taught in school, when kids are older or in college, balance a checkbook, but this is also, things you can do to manage life when something happens. And so I was in a panic, and my sister said, "Hey, look, I'm loving this. I'm starting to do this as a side business. Do you want to do it with me?" And I said, "Let's do it." Like we're getting natural products out, which is what I love because it's the environment and what I'm putting down the drain. If I'm telling everybody at the aquarium, be careful with what you're using, be careful what you're putting out there for pollution. And then I come home and I'm using products that are full of just synthetics and fragrance. That goes down the drain and it ends up getting out into the environment. And really, then I'm not doing I'm not practicing what I preach. So that really solidified me heading down this road and building this business. And what I'm finding is I'm helping people along the way, finding whatever it needs to fit into their life. And it's just been an absolute complete blessing. It's another job, like you said, but I'm so passionate about it that they've asked me to go speak at events, which has led to me speaking for a number of different things, including the widowed community. It just really, I went from one passion, still have the animal thing, then the environment and my emotions, and that poured into oils, which all link together. And then it goes to helping people, which is just like helping animals. So it's all things that fit in with my passion and the things that I love.
Thank you for sharing that. I call it's kind of controversial, but I don't really believe in work life balance. And a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, what are you trying to say?" I believe in work life passion. And so, if you balance it out, now obviously you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what I'm saying is, your passion, your job may be a hobby too. And so you're enjoying what you're doing. Why not do it? You can do it anytime you want. So that's kind of what I go by. Thank you so much. So I did want to get to the questions that came in, because like I said, we did have a few that came in. And I think you're the best person to handle some of these questions. So a student writes in saying they are majoring in marine biology, and their goal is to work at SeaWorld doing what you're doing. What is the best way to get your foot in the door?
Okay, so the best way to get your foot in the door if you want to work at an aquarium, and I get it, so many people go, "I want to work at SeaWorld." If that is your goal, keep that goal there. Just realize it may not be a straight shot. You might have to do a little bit of bouncing around. So if you live anywhere near an aquarium right now and you can volunteer there, get in there. Even if it's just education, and I don't say just education because those departments are really important, but if your drive is the animal side of things, if you don't live near an aquarium and you live near a zoo, see what you can do to volunteer with them. If those are not options for you, you're not out of options. You can volunteer or work at a farm, an animal rescue shelter, a veterinary clinic. It's all animal care and it all counts. So start now. Start right away as soon as you can, and that will get you some experience. If you're close to an aquarium or a zoo, that'll get your foot in the door because we all tend to know each other. So in any department, I started off at the New England Aquarium when I was in college. The summer after my freshman year, I got a job in guest services. I knew I wanted to be a trainer, but that wasn't an option. I didn't have my degree. There wasn't any spaces. There wasn't any room for volunteers. But I said, well, I might as well know how the whole thing works. I'll just go and I'll work with the guests. I'll learn the animals. I'll meet people. I'll network. And that's exactly how I ended up getting a volunteer position when it was open. I knew the trainers and I said, "Hey, if anything shows up, I have to go to school Monday through Friday, but Saturday, Sunday's off." And when something opened up, they called me. They didn't go for the volunteer list that they had of all the people that wanted to be in the department. They already knew me. And they said, "Hey, Bryan, we have an opening on Sundays." And that's how it all started for me. So do that. Scuba certification. If you want to work with marine mammals, you want to work at an aquarium, you need to get scuba certified. You can do that as early as 13. Um, you can get a junior certification. So if you're watching this and there is a young child that's interested in this, 13 years old. My dad had me scuba diving in the back pool before that because I loved it so much. And I'd go around and I'd collect coins that he would throw in the pool for me, just so I could get through that. But that's huge. So do that. And then there's a couple of options. There is the International Marine Animal Trainers Association, IMATA, IMATA. You can go to their website. You can become a member and you support their goals towards animal training and animal welfare. And that gives you access to Soundings, which is their quarterly publication where all of us from different zoos and aquariums will write papers about what we're doing with our animals and submit it for the whole community to be able to read and then talk to each other about. We do usually have a conference every year, but of course, with everything going on, it may be virtual. It was going to be at the Georgia Aquarium this year, but I think we're going to end up making everything virtual. So there's that. There's AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So check that out. Any of that stuff, dive in and get involved. There are some social media pages. You can follow all of them on social media. And there are some social media groups for people who are animal trainers. If you can get into that, you can start asking people in there now. I know there's lots of, I can't think of one of the names off the top of my head of the groups, but I know I'm in there and I see a lot of college, high school people that are in there, and they'll throw out questions. Hey guys, I live in this area and I'm trying, is there anybody from this aquarium? Can you give me any feedback? Can somebody check my resume? Things like that. That's a great way to start going towards your drive. And I know you're looking for SeaWorld and you'll get it. Stick to it. Just remember that sometimes the way to get somewhere, you might have to go around in order to do that. It doesn't mean you're giving up on your goal. You're just finding a way, right? A boulder might land in your pathway. You can't get mad at the boulder. It's just doing what it's doing. So either go around, go over it, or figure out a way to go through it.
Did you want to fill in one day when I don't do the show and you can do the show?
I mean, sure, why not?
So you're a typical case study in my book where I encourage people to volunteer in a certain industry, in any community before they get their job, work part-time jobs, entry-level jobs, wherever you can get your foot in the door. And you did it, your case in point, because in every industry, everybody says, well, it's really hard to do this. Well, guess what? When you excel at a certain type of industry, there's only a certain positions in any industry when you get to the upper echelon. So you're right about that. SeaWorld, you're only got a few positions. And then you volunteered. You didn't take any pay. You networked, you showed up on time, you worked hard, you worked with the animals. They saw your love for that. So then when something came along, they're not going to call Zach, who has been sitting at home saying, man, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. I want to work at SeaWorld. They're going to ask you first. Then you get your foot in that door and you keep working your way up. So just phenomenal advice. I couldn't have said it any better myself. And obviously, you know the industry, and get involved in all these pages, not just for your job, any job, social media pages, leadership conferences, even if they're virtual, take a role, so many different things you can do. But you're right. You can't probably just, fill out an application to SeaWorld and they're like, okay, Zach, come on down for an interview. It probably doesn't work that way. And you kind of walk through that. So let's ask you one more question. A zoology major writes in and says, what can I do with my degree? Probably maybe should have looked at that a little earlier, but we appreciate the question. Is there, you have any advice for that? Any experience in that field?
Yeah, it's a zoology degree you can take that and run in so many different directions. So if you're unsure what to do, or things are panning out a little bit different than you expected, go back to what you're passionate about. You have a zoology degree, so it's animals. But is it plants? Is it insects? Is it birds? Like, what grabs you? Is it research? You can do research. There's labs that do biological research. They take samples out in the field, bring them back, do all sorts of studies. You can be in the um, forestry community where you're making sure that people aren't destroying the woods. You can be protecting the woodlands or checking out the Everglades for overall environmental health. Like, there's so many different ways that you can go through. Like, zoology doesn't mean you work at a zoo. It's understanding how nature works and how animals work, how they interact with their environment, plants. I know people that have gotten zoology stuff and they've switched over to marine botany, where you're studying algae and how that works. Those people have now gotten jobs at water treatment plants because instead of using chemicals, they're using different types of algae. Like Alva lactuca, which is like sea lettuce. It has this flat. It loves sucking nitrogen out of the water, and that's great for a water treatment plant. So you can really take whatever you're doing and drive it into directions that you never thought. So don't think that zoology means just this. Like I said, I have worked with people who have been animal trainers, and they have degrees in education because they thought they'd be school teachers. They have degrees in psychology because they were going to go down that route and get their master's or something and work with people, but they loved animals and started volunteering. So a job opened up. I've worked with people that are communications majors or marketing majors that also love the aquarium. They thought that they were going to get into marketing at an aquarium, jumped in, wanted to know more about the animals, started volunteering, realized this is what I want to do. They're great at communicating and marketing, so they're great for shows, presentations, encounters with people. So they're getting that little niche that they originally thought, and they get to merge it in a different way and really fill, again, two passions all at once.
Awesome. Great advice. Bryan, thank you so much for joining the show. This has been very informational for people out there that are exploring this career or maybe be in it. I'm sure you've helped a lot of students with what you said today. So we really appreciate your time.
Thank you. This has been great.
All right. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Everybody stick to your dreams.